welcome to my channel. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the Radiomaster ZORRO, but it's going to be a pretty cool video because not only am I going to check out the Radiomaster ZORRO, but I'm also going to show you how to set up your drone inside the Radiomaster, bind it, set it up in Betaflight, and then go flying. So I don't know if this was apparent, but I do have a Radiomaster marketing ball cap on and a Radiomaster t-shirt that's about 10 sizes too large for me, but I've got it over a sweatshirt. Is that a thing? Can you do that? Put it over a sweatshirt? Well, I did for this video. Let me get rid of the ball cap. All right, so that's what my head looks like without a ball cap. So really quick, let me tell you what operating system this radio runs on. Well, actually, let the radio tell you. Come on, here you can do it.
Welcome to EdgeTX.
EdgeTX. It also has voice in it. Listen to this.
Flight mode angle. Flight mode acro.
So in this video, I'm going to show you how to put voices in it because the voices are in it, but you have to add them to all the switches and everything, and I'll show you in this video how to do that. You should also know that this radio is powered by two batteries that are underneath the little grips on the back, and there goes one of them. There's the battery there. It's an 18350 battery. Please note, those two batteries do not come with the radio, so you will have to buy them yourself. I will put a link below so you can go find a place to buy them. Also, if you have a 2S battery lying around the house, you can power this off a 2S battery. There is a cable. I believe it comes with the radio, so I'm not 100% sure because I only have one cable here. It's got an XT30 connector on the end, and it has like a balance connector on the other end. And this cable fits right in the front, right down in here. And then you just plug this in and you plug the other end into your battery. And the radio comes with straps to strap your battery on, or you have this plastic unit here that could just fit in and hold your battery in place. So as you can see, powering this unit is not an issue. You can have plenty of power, and you can run the power in combination. So you can have the batteries in it plus run the 2S power, and it will run for days and days. Obviously, you notice a big screen up front, and I'll put up here what the resolution of it is. It is very easy to see outside. I've gone outside with this. I can see it quite easily, and of course indoors, super easy to see. Last thing to mention before we get into the buttons, it does come with a micro SD card, and on that micro SD card would be all the features you would normally download off the internet to put onto the card and then stick in your radio. This already has them all, which is a bonus. Now, if you fly FPV drones, RC planes, RC helicopters, trucks, cars, boats, you might really like this because it's got a really good button layout, and we're going to go over that. On the front, you have all sorts of buttons. On the rear, all sorts of buttons, and on the back. Not only that, they've put all these little screw holes in certain areas, especially around the screen, so you can 3D print other items and attach them. So maybe you add a bigger display, whatever. So now, quickly, let's go over the button layout. So right on the front, you have page buttons. You have two of them, one forward, one back, which is a nice option. You have your return button. That's very useful. You're going to use that a lot. You have your system button. If you hold that down, you can get into the system menu and change a pile of settings of the actual controller. You also use that for other features. If you attach a module on the back, which this radio you can attach one, you can put a crossfire or an ELRS module on the back. You press the system button to get into the settings for the module. Next up, you have your Hall effect gimbals, which are high quality in the RC hobby. Then over, you have your lanyard strap holder made out of metal. Then you have your trim buttons. We don't use those in the FPV hobby, but those who fly RC planes, you'll use your trim buttons all the time. And you do get 4 of them, thank God for that. And then over, we have our model button. We're going to see that as I show you how to enter a model into this radio. Next, we have our scroll wheel that is made out of metal, and if you click it in, it's like a mouse when you click to select things, so you'll use that a lot when you're selecting things on the menu option. And then your last button down here is your tele or telemetry item. You press that, and it takes this right into your telemetry window. If you have a receiver that has telemetry on it, it will bounce back and show you the information here. Final 2 things up front, our very loud speaker. I'm glad the speaker's loud because I'm half deaf. And then we have our big screen, and then you have a movable antenna up here. I don't think it makes much of a difference. You could leave it flat or put it up or put it away over that way. Doesn't make much difference. Now, I know someone's going to ask me, can I put a larger antenna on this little remote? And the answer is yes. So if you flip around to the back, we'll look at that next. I'll start with that. So right in the center, there's a little round plug. You pull that out, and in that hole is where you attach an external antenna. Of course, you probably have to take the radio apart because as I'm looking inside, it looks like I have to go in and maybe add. I don't see the SMA connector in there, so I think you have to open it up. But anyways, the instructions say you can add an external antenna in that hole. So since Since we're on the rear, let's look at the first thing is the switches. So on the bottom, you have, like on a drone, we turn the props on and off. So we have a two-way switch. It's on, off on either side. So if you're left-handed, right-handed, or whatever side you like it, it's perfect. Then the next two switches up are three-way switches for different functions and features. You can hear the clicking, both sides, three-way switches. I know it keeps talking to me because it's, I know. Anyways, and then you have two dials here. What do they call them? Potentiometers? Oh, I'm pronouncing that so badly. Someone's going to correct me. Anyways, you have the two dials there. I don't use them. The only time I've ever used dials for the FPV hobby is to assign a value to the volume coming out of the speaker, the sound out of the speaker. Then I would use a dial for that. But you have to set that up in the radio. Then you have two momentary switches on either side. Then on the back here, if I move this little rubber flap, I'll show you close up. There's holes on either side with different things. So let me tell you, on one side you have a headphone jack. That is just in case you have sound coming back to you from some sort of device. It will come back to the radio, and then you can put headphones on and listen to what the sound is. And underneath the headphone jack is your micro SD card, and it comes included with the radio with everything already on it. And on the other side, you have a trainer port plus a USB-C port. So if you put a USB-C cable in there and the other end into your PC, it's going to say, do you want to use this as an external device? And then you can access the memory on your micro SD card that's in this device. Or it's going to ask, would you like to use this as a joystick? And if you say yes, then you can play flight sims on this. So I've used this playing flight sims, and I will say it's so ergonomically comfortable in the hand that, yeah, you're going to love playing flight sims on this. I'll put a link below to the flight sim you see on the screen right now. And then on the bottom, we have two more switches. So if you're flying and you want to use the switches on the bottom, you click in and they pop out. They don't stay in, so they're like a momentary switch. Then in the center, this is where you can put your external module. If you have a Crossfire Nano or you have an ELRS Nano module like I have here from Beta FPV, and click it down. And now this radio is a 4-in-1 radio plus ELRS. It's that simple. I'll put a link below to where you can find the Beta FPV ELRS external module. I think it's like $39 or $49. And then flipping to the forward section right here, I've already talked about it. This is where you'll put your external power and also your charging. So there's another USB-C input here, and that's for charging. Just plug a USB-C cable in here and the other end into some power source, and it will charge up the radio, the batteries in the radio, which is pretty sweet. And of course, that bigger item in the center is for external power to power the radio off a 2S battery. So as mentioned, the radio comes in different configurations. This is the 4-in-1. This is the one most people will buy. 4-in-1 just means that it's got a chip on it that can connect to multiple receivers. Like, I mean a pile of different receivers. So if you bought any type of RC plane, RC helicopter, RC drone, those would all come with receivers in them, or you ask to have a receiver in it. There's a good chance that this will be compatible with all those receivers. Now, if you get something with an ELRS receiver in it, then you need that module, which I've lost. Hang on a sec. Then you need the module to go on the back to be ELRS in the 4-in-1. However, if you plan to communicate mostly in the ELRS system, then you would go get yourself this here ELRS ZORRO, because the module, this, is built into it. It's not external, it's inside the radio. However, the drawback is that it is not a 4-in-1, which means you cannot go connect to the Futaba receivers, the Spectrum receivers, the FrSky receivers. You're pretty much stuck with ELRS or whatever module you stick on the back, and I would say most people are going to put a Crossfire module, so you'd have ELRS and Crossfire, the best of both worlds. So for those of you who have been using radios so far, and you put an ELRS module on the back of whatever radio you own, you know that to access this module, or Crossfire, you go into the system menu. So let me show you. I'm going to show you right here. It's the same idea in this, even though ELRS is built into it. So hopefully that's showing up. You can see I have Crossfire. Can I even turn this wheel while I'm here? There we go. And you got ELRS. And you got Express LRS. So let's say I select Express LRS. I'm going to click in. I should get, yeah, there we go. It's just like having the module on the back, and you can do all your settings here. Maybe even a few more settings. So, oh, and transmitter power. Let me show you that, because everybody's going to ask, what is the max? The max is 250 milliwatts. So just to summarize, the ELRS version is in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. If you're wondering if there's going to be like a 900 megahertz, 915 megahertz version, Radiomaster says no. So physically, the ELRS version and the 4-in-1 version are physically identical. There's no difference whatsoever. It's just the internals that are different. Now by itself, the radios do not come with a case, but I just happen to have a Radiomaster case here. I have a pile of Radiomaster products. So if I stick it in the case, I'll just show you really quick. It's pretty sweet. You could probably fit other Radiomaster radios in here. So there we go. It fits in really tight. And if you happen to have some type of external module for Crossfire or ELRS, there you go. And you're off to the field to have a lot of fun. If you're looking at getting yourself one of these cases, I will find a link to the case and put it below as well. Now, as I already mentioned, the Zorro comes in several configurations. So this is the 4-in-1 configuration. I think that's going to be the most popular. Then you have the ELRS configuration. There is also another configuration that's kind of like the 4-in-1, except it does not connect to as many receivers as this model does. So the next thing to show you would be what comes in the box. So for the 4-in-1, it's pretty much standard what you get. For the ELRS, it comes in two different versions. I have the base version of the ELRS, so what I received in my box is kind of like what you get in the 4-in-1. If you get the more like, I don't know, Fly More package of the ELRS, whatever they call it, you get a pile of ELRS receivers and other cool things in it, as well as the ELRS radio. So here quickly, let me show you what comes in the box. This is the box your Zorro comes in, and inside the box you'll see it's heavily protected in plastic. Inside the box you'll find the quick start guide instructions, as well as a USB-C cable, straps to attach an external battery, and a screen protector. Alright, now here's the part a lot of you want to see, because maybe you are new to the world of FPV and you're buying this radio and you have to set up a drone in it. So we're going to do that right now, and it's going to be so simple. And please keep in mind, because I always get a lot of people that comment with silly comments, I'm showing this very basic because I don't have 10 hours to spend on setting up every single setting and telling you everything. I'm going to give you enough information to set up your drone and get out and fly. You can watch other videos and set it up even further, but I'll give you enough to get going. So in order to do that, make sure you got lots of power, because you know you might go slow and you don't want to kill the batteries while you're programming it. You're going to need whatever FPV drone you bought yourself. And I know everybody buys themselves all types of FPV drones, and they're all different. The only thing you have to concern yourself with is when you bought the drone, what receiver did you ask them to put in the drone? So you have to know that, because you have to select that receiver in the radio. Next, you need a battery to power your drone, because some drones require battery power to cause the receiver inside to actually work. Other drones, if they're very tiny, they don't really need a battery. Also, make sure you take your props off, as you see here, and make sure you put your antenna on the back, because you don't want to fry your VTX. Anytime you attach a battery to your drone, always make sure the antenna is on, or else you're going to fry the little VTX that gets really hot and then goes boop. And finally, the last two items you'll need is a USB cable, and a really good one. Don't use a cheap USB cable or it won't work. And when I say you need a good USB cable, I mean you need one that sends data, not just power. You know, there's USB cables out there just made to send power to charge things, and other ones are made for data, two-way communication. You need the two-way communication data USB cable. And make sure you know on your drone what type of end does it take. Is it a USB-A or is it a USB-C? You'll see it on the drone. There's a spot you can plug in. Then finally you need some sort of computer, I don't know, PC, laptop, something that you can install Betaflight configurator on. I'll put a link below to where you can get it. Go and get it and install it on your PC or your Mac way ahead of time. The last time I made one of these videos, I did it for the Jumper T Pro. I used a PC, so this one I'm going to use a Mac just to show you can do both on either one. Oh, and finally, just make sure you know the names of the buttons, because I'm going to say click on the page button. I'm going to say click on the return button. I'm going to say click the scroll wheel, this thing over here. When I say click, it means push it in. And that's pretty much it. Oh, and your model button. We're going to use that. Your model button, I think that's it. And just make sure you know those buttons. You'll hear me say them, so just know which ones to press. So let's get on with it. This will be quick because I don't have a lot of time to spend. Hit the pause button on your screen. If it's too much information at once, rewind, watch again. Here we go. Power on your Zorro and hold down the MDL model button until you see this screen. Please take note that you're on page 1 of 12. Use your scroll wheel to scroll down to a blank line, then push in the scroll wheel to select that line. Then select Create Model. Next, press your page button to go to page 2 of 12. This is where you're going to type in the name you want to give to your drone. I'm going to call my drone Drone. You pick letters by scrolling. You select the letter by pressing in the scroll wheel. If you want a lowercase letter, just press in and hold the scroll wheel down and the letter will become a lowercase letter. Once everything's completed, just hit the return button, then hit the page button and page over to page 5. Now scroll down to where it says I05 and then press in the scroll wheel to select it. Now scroll down to where it says name, and the name you're going to type is ARM, A-R-M. Once completed, hit return and then scroll down to where it says source, and then click in the scroll wheel. Now we have to select a switch for the ARM function. Select this switch. Move the switch up and down and S1 will change to SE. Now press return several times to get back to the previous menu. Now scroll down and select I06. Click in the scroll wheel. Now we're going to go type a name, and this time we're going to type the name Modes, M-O-D-E-S. Once completed, hit the return key and scroll down to source and highlight S2 and click in the scroll wheel. And now we have to assign a switch to our flight modes. This is the switch you're going to pick because this is our mode switch. So move it up and down and you'll see the S2 changes to SB. Next, hit return several times to get back to the previous menu. Now look at our page. We're on page 5. We're going to go to page 6. Scroll down to CH5 and click in the scroll wheel. Now when it says mix name, type in the word ARM, A-R-M. When completed, just hit the return key, and then let's go to the next item, which is going to be CH6. Click in the scroll wheel to select it. Then under mix name, you're going to type modes, M-O-D-E-S. When completed, press the return button, then press the page button, and we're going to go to page 10 of 12. This is where we're going to assign a voice or voices to our switches. So when you get to that page, click the scroll wheel to select enter. Now we have to pick the switch, pick this switch E, and move it up and down. You will see as you move it up and down, the arrow beside SE changes. Right now it's pointing up, and if you move it again, it's pointing down. Just know that it is the opposite of what you think. When it's up, it doesn't mean the switch is up, it means the switch is down. Ensure your screen matches mine, then scroll over and we're going to pick the words play track. And next scroll over one more time, hit enter, and you are going to pick the word armed, A-R-M-E-D, it's right there. Then hit return and test your switch. It should sound like this.
Armed.
Now scroll down one line and click in the scroll wheel, and now we have to pick our mode switch, which is this one right here. So you can move your mode switch up, down, and you can see once again the arrow will change as you move it. Make sure your mode switch looks like mine. As soon as you have the arrow pointing in the same direction you see on my screen, then pick play track. And then the sound you want to pick is called FM-Horizon. In other words, for horizon mode. So look at the screen. I'm going to go down. I'm going to find FM-Horizon. Then hit the return key. Scroll down to the next line. Push in the scroll wheel and flick that switch so it's in the center position. Now then go over and select play track. Now the track you're going to pick is called FM-Angle for when you want to place the drone in angle mode. Then hit return and we're going to select our last item. So once again, move the switch this time all the way up and then select play track. And then select FM acro. In other words, flight mode, acro mode. Then test out your mode switch and it should sound like this.
Flight mode horizon. Flight mode angle. Flight mode acro.
Next, press your page button and we're going to go to page 2. We have to turn on the communication system within the radio, so scroll around until you find this screen. It's going to be either scrolling up or scrolling down on page 2. Find internal RF mode. It's going to say off, change it to multi. Next, scroll down to where it says type. This is asking for what type of receiver are we going to bind to. So you have to know what type of receiver is in your drone and select the proper one. I have an FrSky RXSR receiver, so I'm going to select it on the screen. You see under type, I'm going through all the options. So I will select the correct receiver. It's written a little bit different in the radio, but I know from experience the correct one, which is this one, FrSky X2. Now most receivers, not all, but most have a bind button on the receiver. I'm pointing an arrow at the bind button on my receiver. So a bind button means you have to press down on the bind button while adding power to the drone. So I'm pressing down the bind button here with my nail, adding power, and that puts the receiver into bind mode. And I know it worked because all the lights are solid. So now I go back to my radio, and I'm going to scroll down to the word bind, B-N-D. I'm going to press enter, and I have to select telemetry. Do I want channels 1 to 8 or 9 to 16? I'm going to pick 9 to 16. And then I press in the scroll wheel to activate the bind function. And now it is binding. Notice my solid light on the receiver is blinking. And now to test out my bind, I'm going to hit return to get out of the bind function, go back to the main screen. Next, I'm going to disconnect the battery off the drone so that when it powers up, it's automatically going to connect to the radio. And then I'm going to flick my arm switch and the motor should spin. Now, if your motors don't spin, it's probably because your drone is not properly set up. So you're going to have to go in Betaflight and set it up. So start up Betaflight as you see here. Ensure your radio is powered on and your drone model is selected. And push all your switches down. Next, find the USB port on your flight controller. And then take your USB cable and plug it in. Then connect a battery to the drone so it's all powered on, ready to go. Make sure the props are off and make sure the antenna is on. Now you can connect your USB cable to your computer. Betaflight should recognize your drone and automatically start up. If it doesn't start up, then on the top right there's a connect button, click on that. You'll know you have a good USB cable if when you move the drone on the screen on your laptop or computer or PC moves as well. Now on the left hand side of the screen, click on the receiver tab. And now move the joysticks on your radio and you should see everything moving on the screen. If you don't see anything moving, it means your radio did not bind to your drone. You're going to have to try again. On the left of the Betaflight screen, select the modes tab. And this is where we'll set up our arm switch and our mode switch. So let's start with the arm switch. As you move your arm switch, you'll notice that the word arm on your screen will change red, disabled, or go back to gray. What's important on this screen is that your Betaflight screen looks similar to mine, so make sure you're on auxiliary 1 for arm, and that big yellow bar you can move left or right, but stick it over on the far left as I have here. Now to set up your flight modes, that's your top switch, and as you can see as I'm selecting them here, things are changing to yellow. Make sure your screen looks like my screen and make sure you have selected auxiliary 2 for all the switches. You'll notice you only see angle and horizon mode. You do not have to show acro mode. When everything is completed, just click on the save button in the bottom right hand corner. Now as a bonus, I'll show you this. If you want to set up what you see in your FPV goggles, click on the OSD tab. In the center is what you will see in your goggles. To add or remove items from your display, just select items or remove items under column number 1 on the left hand side of the screen. Then remember to select your save button. And finally, if you want to change the settings in your video transmitter, just click on this tab, video transmitter, and then you'll see over here on the left hand side, you can change the channel and the band as well as the power output. Just remember to once again save your settings. Now you're all done, so you can click on the disconnect button and then you can remove the battery power from your drone and also remove your USB cable. Then put the props on your drone, head outside and go fly.
Alright, so back to me. I'm putting my hat back on because I'm ending this video now. Radiomaster. Lots of marketing going on here, isn't there?
All right, so yes, Radiomaster did send me these radios, and they sent me the t-shirt and the hat, so I'm wearing everything. So if you have any questions about these radios, just post comments below and I'll get back to you to the best of the knowledge I know about the radios. I've been playing with them. I really like them. I've used the 4-in-1 a lot more than the ELRS because in the 4-in-1 I have a ton of modules that go on the back, nano and micro modules. And that's what I'm used to in the FPV hobby, having a module on the back. And my modules shoot out at up to 1 watt, whereas the ELRS only shoots out at 250 milliwatts. However, let me say the following. For my needs, I only need about 100 milliwatts. I'll never use 1 watt unless I'm flying outside, inside a huge building, I don't know, a warehouse, and I'm standing outside and I need it to go through, penetrate all the walls, everything else. Because there's one factor that always kills your range, and that is your video transmission back to you. So it doesn't matter if I have 250 milliwatts or 1 watt or 1,000 bazillion watts. If my video signal coming back into my FPV goggles is something less, that's the limitation of my range. And normally in the FPV drone hobby, that is the weakest part of any flight. It's the video signal back. If you can't see where you're going, you just stop flying and turn around and come home. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I've put all the links to everything that we talked about in this video below. Go check it out and yeah, get yourself one of these radios. I think you'll love it. I know you're gonna see me in a lot of future videos using this one because I do like the ergonomics and I do like the button layout. I'm very old school with metal switches like the click things, and yeah, you'll keep on talking to me. There it goes, keep on talking. So it keeps on talking. So I'm old school and I like metal switches, vice plastic switches. So I kind of like this radio. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video with many cool products. Bye.